Brandon Lee. The Crow, 1993. The set of The Crow was cloaked in shadows, both on-screen and off. It was supposed to be Brandon Lee's breakout role, his chance to step out from the immense shadow of his father, Bruce Lee, and claim a place of his own. The Crow was dark, gothic, drenched in themes of love, revenge, and tragedy. Fitting, perhaps too fitting, for what would unfold. On the night of March 31st, 1993, the cameras rolled on a pivotal scene. Brandon's character, Eric Draven, was meant to be brutally murdered by a gang, setting into motion the resurrection that defines the film. The weapon was a prop gun, loaded with what should have been harmless dummy rounds. The crew and cast believed it to be safe, just another night on set. But hidden inside the barrel was a deadly flaw, a fragment from an improperly prepared dummy round, left behind during earlier rehearsals. When the trigger was pulled, the cameras captured more than a performance. The makeshift bullet tore through Brandon's abdomen. At first, some thought it was acting. The fall, the agony in his face, but the blood was real. Chaos erupted on set as medics rushed forward. He was taken to the hospital, where surgeons fought for hours to stop the bleeding. By evening, the dream was gone. Brandon Lee was just 28 years old. The investigation that followed painted a grim picture of negligence. Firearm safety protocols had been ignored. Inspections skipped. The tragedy forced Hollywood to confront a brutal truth. Even pretend violence can kill if precautions aren't absolute. In the wake of Lee's death, studios tightened regulations on prop weapons, mandating stricter inspections, training, and eventually, the widespread use of computer-generated effects to replace real firearms. When The Crow was released, it carried the weight of his absence. CGI and body doubles completed the film, but nothing could fill the void left behind. Audiences couldn't watch without remembering the man whose life ended mid-performance. The movie became a cult classic, but forever haunted a love letter written in grief. Vic Morrow and the Child Actors. Twilight Zone, the movie, 1983. Vic Morrow was a veteran actor. In Twilight Zone, the movie, he was playing a man offered redemption. A bigot transported through war zones, given the chance to save children from danger. It was meant to be powerful storytelling, but it ended in catastrophe. On the night of July 23, 1982, the set was chaos by design. Explosions lit up the dark sky. A helicopter hovered dangerously low, blades chopping the air as Vic carried 2 children in his arms. The scene was supposed to show him as a reluctant hero. Instead, reality became a nightmare. An explosion went off too close. The blast rattled the helicopter, sending it into a tailspin. In seconds, the machine plummeted. There was no time to escape. The rotor blades struck Vic and the 2 children, 7-year-old Myca and 6-year-old Renee Shin-Yi Chen. All 3 were killed instantly. The fallout was immediate and devastating. Investigators discovered the children had been hired illegally, without permits, and were forced to work late at night around pyrotechnics and aircraft conditions that broke labor laws. The parents hadn't been told of the dangers. Director John Landis and several crew members were charged with involuntary manslaughter. The trial dragged on for years, dividing Hollywood. Landis was ultimately acquitted, but his reputation never fully recovered. The tragedy forced the industry to tighten rules on child labor, stunt coordination, and safety oversight. Studios began requiring safety officers on dangerous shoots and stricter communication between departments. But the image of that night could never be erased. A helicopter falling from the sky, crushing 3 lives in front of rolling cameras. What was meant to be a tale of redemption became one of Hollywood's darkest cautionary stories. Jon-Erik Hexum. Cover-Up, 1984. On the set of the TV series Cover-Up, rising star Jon-Erik Hexum was known for his charm, his wit, and his frustration with the grueling pace of production. On October 12, 1984, during a break between takes, boredom set in. To lighten the mood, Hexum picked up a prop revolver. It was loaded with blanks harmless, many assumed, since no bullet was inside. Laughing, he pressed the barrel to his temple and pulled the trigger. In an instant, the sound of the shot shattered the air. Though blanks carry no bullet, the explosive force at close range is devastating. The blast fractured his skull, driving fragments of bone into his brain. The set fell silent, shock replacing laughter as the young actor collapsed. Hexum was rushed to the hospital, where doctors fought to save him, but the injury was irreversible. 6 days later, his life support was removed. He was only 26 years old. The tragedy was ruled an accident, but its impact reverberated. Hollywood was forced to confront the dangerous misconception that blanks were safe. New rules mandated stricter inspections, more training, and a culture of respect around even the most ordinary-looking props. Behind the reforms lay a haunting truth. A playful moment, a single lapse in judgment, had cost a promising young actor everything. Sarah Jones, Midnight Rider, 2014. The railroad tracks stretched across the Georgia countryside, quiet and still. For 27-year-old camera assistant Sarah Jones, the day was just another step toward building a career in the industry she loved. The film was Midnight Rider, a biopic about rock legend Greg Allman. The director, Randall Miller, was eager for a striking shot, a hospital bed placed directly across the rails, framed by the looming steel bridge behind it. But there was a fatal flaw. The crew did not have permission to be there. The tracks were live, warnings had been ignored, safety dismissed. As the cameras rolled, a whistle pierced the air. A freight train thundered toward them, leaving seconds to escape. Chaos erupted as cast and crew scrambled. Sarah ran, but she was caught in the path of the train. In the chaos, she was struck and killed. Several others were injured. The aftermath was one of outrage and sorrow. Her death ignited a movement. Randall Miller was charged with involuntary manslaughter and served a year in prison, a rare instance of criminal accountability in Hollywood. Out of tragedy came advocacy, the creation of Slates for Sarah, a nonprofit dedicated to safer working conditions on sets. Sarah Jones's name became a rallying cry. Her death was not just another accident. It was a line in the sand, a reminder that ambition must never outweigh the most basic duty of all, to protect the lives of those who make stories come alive. Roy Kinnear, The Return of the Musketeers, 1989. Roy Kinnear was beloved for his humor, his warmth, his ability to steal scenes without ever overshadowing them. On the set of The Return of the Musketeers, he was reprising his role in a swashbuckling adventure. The day's task seemed straightforward, a horseback chase through the cobblestone streets of Toledo, Spain. But the cobblestones were slick, the horses restless. As Kinnear rode, his horse stumbled. He was thrown violently to the ground, the impact breaking his pelvis. He was rushed to a hospital where complications from internal bleeding set in. By the next day, September 20th, 1988, he was gone. He was 54. The incident revealed cracks in Hollywood's safety net. Animal stunts, long considered routine, carried hidden dangers. Filming in remote locations often meant inadequate medical care. Kinnear's family criticized the production for delays in treatment, raising painful questions about accountability. His death sparked calls for better oversight of animal-related stunts and stricter requirements for medical readiness on location shoots. For his colleagues, it was a heartbreaking loss. For Hollywood, another reminder that even the simplest scenes carry risk. Joi JS Harris, Deadpool 2, 2017. The streets of Vancouver had been transformed into a film set, the kind where fiction and reality blur under the roar of engines and the crack of camera shutters. Joi JS Harris, a professional motorcycle racer, sat astride her bike, her visor reflecting the city skyline. She wasn't just riding, she was stepping into history. This was her first time as a stunt woman in a Hollywood blockbuster, doubling for Zazie Beetz' Domino in Deadpool 2. The stunt seemed straightforward. Accelerate off a ramp, crash through a pane of glass, and land the shot that would thrill millions. But film stunts live on the razor's edge, between spectacle and disaster. As the cameras rolled, Harris throttled forward, the motorcycle roaring beneath her. She hit the ramp, But something was wrong. The bike wobbled, veered, and instead of clearing the scene, it shot off course. In a heartbeat, metal and flesh slammed into cold concrete. The impact was final, merciless. Joi Harris, a racer who had tamed speeds most would never dare, was gone instantly. The crew froze in shock, the set silent except for the echo of the crash. The accident sent ripples far beyond Vancouver. Questions burned. Why was someone so new to film stunts tasked with a maneuver this dangerous? Could better rigging, barriers, or even CGI have prevented this? For Hollywood, the death was a brutal reminder. Behind every death-defying sequence is a human life at stake. Joi Harris wasn't just another stunt double. She was a pioneer, the first African-American female professional road racer. Her loss wasn't only cinematic, it was personal, cultural, and preventable. Halyna Hutchins. Rust, 2021. The New Mexico desert stretched endlessly, sun bleaching the wide-open plains. On the set of Rust, Alec Baldwin was both star and producer, preparing to capture the essence of the Old West under the direction of Joel Souza. The day of October 21st, 2021, began like any other rehearsal, meant to perfect a tense, pivotal scene. In Baldwin's hands rested a prop revolver, believed to be loaded with harmless blanks. But, in a devastating twist of fate, a live round had been mistakenly left inside. When Baldwin pulled the trigger, the weapon discharged, striking cinematographer Halyna Hutchins in the chest. She collapsed amid screams, airlifted to the hospital. But she would not survive. Director Joel Souza was injured in the chaos, a reminder of how quickly art can turn lethal. The investigation that followed revealed a chain of failures, miscommunication between the armorer, assistant director, and crew, and lapses in protocol that should never have occurred. Baldwin, shaken and grief-stricken, maintained that he did not pull the trigger intentionally, believing the gun had malfunctioned. The tragedy ignited fierce debate across Hollywood. Real firearms on set became a topic of intense scrutiny, with studios pledging to rely on CGI and safer alternatives. Rust became a symbol of the dangers that lurk when deadlines, budgets, and creative ambition collide with human lives. Hutchins' death was not just a personal loss. It was a clarion call for change, a dark reminder that safety can never be secondary to spectacle. Jon Bernecker, The Walking Dead, 2017. Jon Bernecker was a master of the impossible, a stuntman whose resume spanned blockbuster films like Black Panther and Logan. He had perfected the art of making danger look effortless. But on July 12, 2017, the boundary between illusion and reality shattered. On the Atlanta set of The Walking Dead, Bernecker was rehearsing a fall from a balcony. A cushioned safety pad awaited below, a thin line between life and death. But miscalculation, distance, or fate caused him to miss it entirely. He hit the concrete with a force that no stunt training could absorb. Airlifted to the hospital, he succumbed to his injuries a few days later, leaving the industry stunned. The investigation revealed troubling oversights. Safety measures had been inadequate, the scene rushed. Production pressures had eclipsed caution. For stunt performers, the line between heroism and tragedy had never felt thinner. In the wake of Bernecker's death, AMC implemented stricter protocols, re-examining every stunt sequence and reaffirming the ethical duty to protect those who risk their lives to thrill audiences.